Are you an overworked employee or a business person that's spending 60 to 80 hours a week on your business just trying to keep it afloat? Do you feel like you've built yourself a trap and you're in an endless loop and you can't seem to get out of your own loop? Well, I might have the answers for you, and they're from a book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. If you don't know about this book, you're probably living under a rock, but seriously, if you don't, this is going to be a revelation. If you've watched my videos or listened to my podcast, you'll know that I'm a huge Tim Ferriss fan. This book actually inspired a global movement. There's a ton of people that got inspired to reinvent their life and live life on their own terms. So for this video, I sat down with my friend Murtaza and we talked about some of the key concepts from the book. We talked about the concept of mini retirement, what it actually means to be rich, and living a dream life and what does it cost. So I hope you don't miss 1 second of this video. I know you're gonna enjoy it. Without much further ado, here's a video where we discuss The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Who do we have next? Shall we go to Timmy? Timmy, long time fan of Tim Ferriss myself. I think my audience has heard me talk about it. In fact, this podcast is possible because of the influence he's had on me. See what I did there? But his first book was The 4-Hour Workweek. I believe so, right?
I think it was his first proper book.
His first foray into writing.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you the same question that I did the last time. Why do you think at the time he was qualified to write this book?
At the time, he was not qualified to write this book. And he says it himself in a podcast he did a few years later where he said, looking back at the first version of the 4-Hour Workweek, if I'm not mistaken, the word he used was cringe. If I'm not mistaken. He said, looking back at that book now, there's so much I should have done different, but I'm not going to go back and change the book because that book is who I was at that time. There's an updated version which has some changes to it, but in principle, the book stays unchanged. He was, by any measure, he was already successful at that age.
Mm-hmm.
He was, I think, 29 when he wrote it. He was already, for his age, successful. But more importantly, he had really good ideas. And if you take the idea, we're going to talk about principles soon.
Mm-hmm.
If you take the principles behind the book, the principles are sound. He may not have lived up to the potential of those principles the way he's got now. He's really, really somebody to look up to and admire. Back then, he was probably not qualified in the traditional sense to talk about it, but he had the idea, he wrote it down, he talked about it in his books, he kept working on it, and he gave us the opportunity to learn from it as well.
Yeah.
If he were to take out the 4-Hour Workweek today, he's definitely qualified to write that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you think, at what stage of a person's business life or other life do you think this book becomes relevant?
This is another book which I think there isn't really a fixed time, but this I would give more to people who are either employed or in business, because the 4-Hour Workweek is written for both, at least the original version. It's written for employees or business owners. This book is different to some of the others we're discussing today because this book shouldn't be read cover to cover. You need to stop in between. You need to do the exercises that he's talking about in between. Otherwise, you will not get value from the book. You will not get as much value from the book as possible. So this is the kind of book which shouldn't be read in a rush. Number one. Number two, the 4-Hour Workweek is a promise, but it's a journey. And for some cases, it becomes a 20-hour workweek, which is still better than the 60 they got going right now. And in some cases, it becomes a 1-hour workweek, which is also great. You overshot. The 4-hour workweek is built on a very logical process, and he looks at some ways to implement it. As you learn the principle, you can implement it differently. But the one key thing that is very important to take away from this book, and I love it, and particularly post-COVID, I think a lot of people now know this a bit better, which is you don't have to be rich to live a rich life. And he breaks that apart. He says somebody who's rich has got a lot of money in the bank and they can do whatever they want. Somebody who's living a rich life is doing whatever they want without having all of that money. And he talks about how. And he calls them the new rich. And I think this is something that's really important. So when you look at, for example, digital nomads, right? People who work anywhere, who live anywhere and work on what they work on. As of this taping, you're going to Bali in about a week.
A week, yeah.
A week. You're going to see so many of them there.
Mm-hmm.
The restaurants, the cafes, the coffee shops, they're full of people from around the world who are sitting, chilling in paradise, working on what they got to work on.
Yeah, I
And
might
then-
not come back.
Yeah, don't. Don't. It's we'll do the next one online. But seriously, it is such a fantastic life to live because people get to live in ways that they don't get to otherwise. You know, you're living palm trees, beach, fresh organic food, sunshine, amazing crowds, and you're getting your work done. It's almost too good to be true. Now, he talked about this in 2009?
8, yeah.
8?
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
He saw these things before a lot of other people had seen them. And I think that's one of the most interesting things about this book.
Yeah. If there were some lessons that you would pick up, like I had my own personal journey with this book as well as an employee. What it made me do was realize that there's a future outside of this. That was the biggest takeaway for me. He lets you dream, but it's all not very cloudy and rosy. He mentions the risks, he mentions the work it takes to set it up, and he shows you the ropes of how he did it, which is great. I think he has that humility of saying like, this is what I did, take what you want. Well, this is what I did. And then this is the kind of book that needs updated revisions every 4 or 5 years because like, yeah, that doesn't work anymore. So let's try this. But yeah, what would you say were at the first time that you read it? Because I'm sure you've probably read it more than once.
Yeah.
The first time that you read it, what were you shocked to read, or what were you picking up that you're like, why am I not doing this?
Probably it was the first exercise that's in the book, which is how much does your dream life actually cost?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest, my dream life actually costs a lot less than I thought it would. I thought I needed to hit X number before I could get to that life.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out I can do it on a lot less. And that in and of itself is such a great, aha moment. Like, oh, that's it? No, I thought I would need that much. And turns out I need 10% of what I thought I would need. God, that's amazing. Hey, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, that number has been surpassed now. But I think that exercise. That's why I said this book, you have to do the exercises.
Yeah.
If you don't do the exercises, you're not getting the value from it. So that was probably my biggest takeaway, and the one thing I would ask everybody to do.
Do you want to get into some of the exercises, or?
Not too many of them. I think just that first one is good. Whoever does that first exercise will do the rest.
Can you walk me through that first exercise in detail? Like, if there's one thing that viewers and listeners can start with today.
The short version, and it's available online for free. You don't even have to read the book. You can go onto Tim Ferriss's website and download the worksheets for free.
Yeah.
But basically what it does is write down your dream budget. What is the car you want to have? Where is that you want to live? How do you want to spend? Where do you want to travel? Mm-hmm. How much do you want to, let's say, pamper yourself? How much do you want to spend on shopping? And how much you want to put in investments? How much
this
do you
is
want to
over
put
your
in?
life or over a year?
Well, your annual budget, let's say.
Okay.
Then you break it down to how much you actually need per month. 9 times out of 10, the number is lower than you think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the exercise that I would encourage everybody to do.
Yeah.
Do it the way he tells you to do it. So go to the website, download the worksheet and fill it out, because that's a little better than just listening to me and doing it. But do that exercise. And if you do that exercise, you will end up reading the book.
There's a spin on this exercise that the FIRE community does. So Financial Independent Retire Early.
Yeah.
Community does, which they take that annual budget of what it costs to live a good life for you, what you think is, and then multiply that by the number of years that you will be not working after retirement. So for example, if you want to retire after 40, which is now possible for a lot of people, you can retire at 40. You take your average lifespan based on your genetics, let's say it's 80 years, so you have 40 years of life left. How much money do you need in the bank for those 40 years? And turns out sometimes it's not that much.
It's not that much.
Especially if you plan for it. So you take that number, annual number, add some inflation margins for it, add some one-off contingencies that might happen, and realistically make, okay, over 40 years for me to live a decent life without working, how much money I should have at the bank, how much of that will be compounding in investments, how much of that will I need to take out once in a while in a year. And it's allowed people to retire really, really early. And I don't know if it was this book that Tim mentioned this, but he mentions mini retirements.
I think it was this one, yeah.
Is that in for our work week as well? Can we talk about that for a second?
Can we talk about retirement for a second?
Yeah.
Before we talk about retiring, mini retirements. What does retirement mean to you?
Never really thought about it. I haven't yet thought about it. I don't think I'll ever not be working. I guess I'm very simplified in my thinking about retirement.
You just talked about retirement in a way, in an idealistic way.
Yeah.
So you want to retire, but you don't want to stop
really.
working. So you don't want to retire.
No.
Okay. So what does retirement mean?
I don't know.
You don't want to what?
Yeah, because like the root of the word is like to stop doing something, to retire something. I have no idea. I'm already in this mindset where I've taken enough sabbaticals, and I'm only 35, 36, turning in a month now, in 2 months. And I've taken too many retirements already, or as I'd like to call them, 3-month sabbaticals, leaving a job and not knowing what I'm doing next kind of thing. So it's not been a year long. So I've never really, because of maybe Tim and this book, I've never really thought, I know what retirement isn't for me. Retirement isn't waiting till I'm 65 to ask for a pension and then go golfing or take on hobbies, right? My hobbies start today, and I'm doing them now. And I'm doing them when I'm able-bodied, when I have my ankles and my knees with me. Traveling, I want to do that now, not wait till the end. Have periods in the afternoon where I can nap. I don't want to wait till I'm 65. I do that today. So I know what retirement is not. I don't know what retirement is for me.
So you know what you said earlier is actually quite interesting. You said retirement is not doing something.
Mm-hmm.
But retirement is not doing nothing. So in my world, retirement means options. So the way that my memory hook when I go to networking events is I help business owners retire younger and richer. And invariably somebody will come up and say, okay, look, I'm not young. And I'm like, that's not what I meant.
Mm-hmm.
What I meant is when you're 65 and you have a pension, you can get up in the morning and choose what you want to do. Do you want to go back to sleep? Do you want to hop on a plane and go somewhere? Do you want to spend the day with your friends on the golf course? You have options.
Yeah.
When you don't have options, you got to get up and you have to go to work. It doesn't matter if it's your job or somebody else, if it's your business or you're working for somebody else. If you have to go to somewhere, you don't have options. Can we get you to the point where you have options? I get up in the morning and think, you know what, today I don't want to go to the office. So I call the office and say, guys, I'm not coming in today. I'll see you tomorrow or next week or next month. And if I don't go in for a month, will anything happen at work? If the business will suffer without me, I can't retire. If the business will be fine without me, sure, I bring value that maybe nobody else can. But if that's a deal breaker contribution, then I can't retire because the business can't work without me.
Yeah.
So retirement is getting to the point where you can do what you want to do rather than what you need to do or what you have to do.
Yeah.
That's for me is retirement. So when you say mini retirements, that's taking a day, a week, a month, 3 months to do what you want to do. If you can extend that over your life, and that doesn't mean not working.
It's choosing.
I know people who work harder after retirement than they used to before.
Yeah.
Because now they're doing a lot more by choice.
Yeah.
Not because they have to, because they want to.
There's so many ways to say that retirement. When you say it that way, there's this word, a phrase that goes around, financial freedom. Financial freedom, also known as fuck you money, which is when you have enough in the bank that you decide what the day is going to be, who you're going to talk to, who you're going to take shit from. Who you're going to take.
Who you're not going to take shit from.
Who you're not going to take shit from. And decide on when you want to be available, unavailable, decide on walking away from things, having that optionality. I like that. I like that a lot. That reframing is definitely helpful. I'm just wondering how to bring that into everyday life, because I don't think it happens. I don't think it's worth waiting for at the end of it. And maybe I'm wrong.
It doesn't
too.
come from waiting. Whoever thinks it's going to come by waiting is
Yeah.
fooling themselves.
Yeah.
It doesn't come from waiting. You can wait a day, a year, 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you get lucky.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a good job that has good pension plans, etc., and you can one day get there.
Yeah.
You do realize what do you know what the background is of the pension program?
No.
I might be getting my math a little bit wrong, but not by a huge amount. So you get your pension at 65.
Mm-hmm.
This was set up at the time when the average age or average lifespan was 63.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make it to the point where you're actually no longer that useful, then we'll give you a little bit of money just to ride out your last days. Now the average age at which people stop working and stop living has gone up considerably.
Yeah.
65 still stays just because nobody's officially changed it.
Yeah.
But the pension, the plan was that not everyone's going to be taking a pension. Most aren't going to make it. So
It was an actuarial play.
imagine if everybody lived to 65.
Yeah.
They'd actually run out of money, which if you're following the news, they are
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
So it's not going to come from waiting. It's going to come from planning. It's going to come from working. It's going to come from investing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to come from understanding what you want your retirement to look like.
Yeah.
The exercise that Tim talks about is one of them. The other thing, so he's got this this acronym DEAL, DEAL, in the book. It comes from working the acronym. Understand how you need to break down your life and break down your work more specifically
Mm-hmm.
to get to the point where you have a 4-hour work week,
Mm-hmm.
plus minus whatever number of hours, but less intensive work week than you have right now.
Yeah.
When you can get to that point, you have more time,
Mm-hmm.
you will have money, you have your strength and your health,
Yeah.
and you have options.
Yeah. It's a daily grind. Like the only thing that I struggle with is like, I don't think it should be a struggle to get to that place. So he has a story about the Mexican fisherman in there. Was it this book?
Don't think it was, or maybe I'm forgetting, but yeah.
Could be, I think. Could be in one of his later books too. But he's talking about the Mexican, and I'll butcher the story. I'm not a great storyteller, but I'll attempt it. There's an American touristing in Mexico, and he's talking to this Mexican fisherman, asking them, how many fish do you get a day? And he's like, about 20 or 40, messing up the numbers. He's like, okay, what do you do with them? He's like, I sell them. He's like, how many boats do you have? He's like, I just got one. He's like, the MBA type, the tourist, like, why don't you get 2 boats and then you can double your output? He's like, okay, senor. And then what? He's like, then when you have enough profit, you can move that to 4 boats and get even more profit by selling more fish, and you can fish more. He said, okay, senor. And then what? He said, okay, then you have a consignment with an American exporter and strike a deal with them because you have large quantities, and so on and so forth, with the last step being that, at that point you can take your company public and go IPO and make, millions and billions of dollars. And he says, the Mexican fisherman says, senor, then what? He's like, then you can come back to Mexico, you can sit here with your friends, play guitar in the afternoon, chill out in the sun, and have your kids playing around you. And he says, senor, I'm doing that today. And it's one of those stories that he mentions. He's like, sometimes what you're looking for isn't always that far away from you.
Yeah.
So these 40-hour, 60-hour weeks that you're putting yourself in could be your own mental trap
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
That you think you need
And
to
more
do
often
this.
than not,
Right?
they are, yeah.
Yeah. You had other points from this book, which I don't want to ignore.
There's a couple of things which are really nice. So he does these 10 rules.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you that are going to stick around for the next part of this, we're going to be talking about principles. You can call these principles as well.
Mm-hmm.
I liked these 3, which I think is worth just talking about. As soon as you hear the rule, you know exactly what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have it said so clearly. Rule number 3, less is not laziness.
Mm.
Super important. Rule number 6, emphasize strength, don't fix weakness.
Mm.
Which I think is something which a lot of people I have different opinions on. Like, oh, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this, let me make this stronger.
Yeah.
That's one way of doing it. Another way is continue doing what you're really good at and delegate that. Hire somebody to do that, right?
Can I talk a spin about that for my personal
of course.
life? When I first became a people manager, I was around 26, 27. So I was pretty young on taking on people that were twice my age as my those that report to me. And I talked to my first boss, the boss that first gave me the opportunity. Hello, Bernadette, if you're listening. And she always used to ask me, or when she was mentoring me through this time over coffee, she says, if you have two employees and one is really strong and the other is very weak, where do you put more of your efforts in? And my intuitive answer was like on the weak one so that they can come up to the strength. And she's like, no, you conserve resources for the strong employee, your time, your energy. And that was a mind shift for me. And it relates to your personal strengths and weaknesses, but also your teams. Are you spending time on duds that will have lesser capability to grow, or the strong ones that if you leverage them properly, they can have exponential returns on the business?
Yeah. Think about it in terms of money. If you have $1,000 in two investments, one's making you 2%, one's making you 200%, what would you probably do when you get to shuffle your money around?
Yeah.
What do you do with our time? One person's giving 20% output, one person's giving 200% output.
Yeah. It happens. And people do that, you're right, with their strengths and weaknesses, their own personal strengths and weaknesses too.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just interrupted you.
Gallup Strengths. If anybody hasn't done it, Gallup Strengths.
Strengths Finder?
Strengths Finder.
2.0?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do the Gallup Strengths test.
Yeah.
It gives you your top 5. If you take the basic option of the test, it gives you 32 or whatever.
Yeah.
If you do the whole version, you don't need the whole version. The first 5 is more than enough.
Yeah.
Do your strengths. It costs like $19. It'll be one of the best investments you make in yourself.
Yeah.
Do your strengths. Find out what your strengths are. Understand how to play on them. Understand how to capitalize. Understand how to maximize your impact.
Yeah.
You'll never look back.
Yeah.
Rule number 8. Money alone is not the solution. So you have enough money. You don't have any more time. What's the point of the money?
Yeah. Or you don't have health.
Or you don't have health. Or you don't have your friends. You're not happy. You're on marriage number 15 and kids don't know your name and home is a suitcase. So money isn't just only outcome. And I think this is something that's really, really important. I've gotten to work with some phenomenal people over the years. And one of the things that I think connects them is money's never been their primary goal. Financial freedom has, which is different. I don't want to have to worry about finances. But once I hit a number, there's the impact, which is more important. There's the time, which is more important. I have a client whose big goal was, I need to sell the business at this number by this date because I don't want to send my kid away for university. I want to go with them. I'd like to move to that country. It's not a cheap country. I don't have anything there. So I don't have to worry about working. I just want to make a crap load of money before I go and then go and chill, party over there. And they did. So money is not the answer. Money is not the only answer. It's a great indicator of success. That's all that it is. It's an indicator of success. It's not success, and it's not the only one. It's not the only indicator.
And everyone has a personal relationship with money, right? So this is such a wide ass topic depending on who you talk to. And there are some people, or maybe I've been conditioned to be raised as someone that equates quality of life to money. So that's a shift that this book also kind of created, right? Like for the longest time, we've thought that quality of life is directly proportional to the amount of money, which if you break that down, and sometimes it takes a few failures to make you realize that too. Some dark places that you have to go to yourself to realize no amount of money is going to solve the shit I'm in right now. That's probably a lesson to best learned by being in that dark depth, especially if you're money minded. Yeah. In the sense that you're doing this to keep score, because that's what money is, right? It's a way to keep score.
It is.
It's just a way to keep score in the social hierarchy. Apart from that, there's not as much value as we thought it would be.
To tracking that close, you know.
Yeah, but at the same time, it makes the world goes round. And it is, for my personal relationship with money has become more of a like a game. It's like, again, football again, but it's like scoring goals.
Hmm.
For me, scoring goals isn't everything in a game. It's like I like playing the game. I enjoy the game. I like the strategy of the game. I like the fitness that I get from the game. And the score is just a way to make it organized, keep the game organized. And that's what money does for us as well. It keeps us organized and in pursuit of something, in pursuit of utilizing, back to your point about your own strengths and seeing what mark you can leave when you push yourself. How are you relevant to the world? What value you can create? And if that's to be measured by money for now, then okay, we'll make money, but shouldn't.
So Jim Rohn's got this really beautiful quote where he says, you get paid for the value you bring to the marketplace. And if you don't bring much value, you don't make much money. And I think that's also important to keep in mind, that if people appreciate you, if your society appreciates you, they will give you stuff. Among that stuff is money. They'll give you a platform. They will give you respect. They'll give you authority. They'll give you access. They'll give you money.
Yeah.
So you're going to make that money. Make an impact, the money's coming. The money will always come. But make an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. That was number 8.
Yeah, so those were 3. Less is not laziness. Emphasize strength. Don't fix weakness. Money alone is not the solution. There's 10 rules. I'm not going to go over all of them. This is not meant to be like a book summary, but just I want to tease it enough for people to go and pick up the book.